The humble AmCan, a nickname affectionately given by railfans for Amtrak's Amfleet passenger cars. A familiar sight to anyone who has ever ridden an Amtrak train. They have been around almost as long as Amtrak itself. In fact, they were the first passenger cars that were ever purpose-designed and built just for Amtrak. How did they come to be? What has made them so successful? How much longer will they be around? And why are those windows so darn small? After almost 50 years on the rails, these iconic passenger cars are rolling out their final miles in some cases, with Amfleet in the Midwest already being replaced with the new Siemens venture cars. Let's take a look back at these unique pieces of rolling stock and learn some of their surprising history. From the very beginning, Amtrak was created to fail. By the 1960s, railroads were losing large amounts of money on their passenger trains. However, they were prohibited by law from abandoning these passenger services without permission from the Interstate Commerce Commission, or ICC. Some of the least patronized routes were eventually abandoned, but the ICC refused many of the railroad's other requests. The federal government eventually came to the rescue with the Rail Passenger Service Act of 1970, and the National Railroad Passenger Corporation, better known as Amtrak, was given a start date of May 1st, 1971. It was less than an auspicious start, with Amtrak cobbling together trains from a patchwork of cars inherited from the private railroads. But events half a world away would give a surprising boost to the nascent passenger railway. As a result of the Middle East oil embargo in the early 1970s, Amtrak ridership experienced an unexpected surge. Until that point, the heritage cars seemed to be doing the job just fine, given that most thought Amtrak wouldn't be around much longer anyway, mostly 20 years older or more, and created to serve the needs of their original owners and not Amtrak. These cars presented more than their fair share of challenges. With increased ridership and ever-increasing operational headaches, Amtrak made the decision to purchase a new fleet of passenger cars built to their specifications. The Budd Company was selected to build these new cars based on their popular Pennsylvania Railroad Metroliner design. The Metroliner introduced several innovations, including lightweight stainless steel construction, improved aerodynamics, and advanced suspension systems allowing for smoother and faster travel on existing tracks. Early in the process, this new design was to be known as the Metro Shell. An advertising firm hired by Amtrak later came up with the Amfleet name, and the rest was history. The first batch of cars hit the rails on the Northeast Corridor in August of 1975. These would eventually come to be known as the Amfleet Ones. What made these new cars so different than the heritage cars that came before them? Plenty. First, and probably most significant, was their choice to adopt the Headend Power system and leave steam-heated cars in the past. Instead of a boiler in the locomotive providing steam to the consist for heat and other hotel needs, everything would now be powered by electricity generated in the locomotive. This would mean that Amfleets would not be compatible with Amtrak's existing cars. But after a few particularly rough winters dealing with their steam-heated cars, the decision was made to begin converting some of them to Headend Power. Other features of the cars included larger wheels and an air suspension system that offered smoother rides and the capability of operating speeds of up to 120 miles per hour. And what about those small windows? Well, I came across 3 possible explanations for this. First was that the curved body of the cars limited the size of the windows, so they wouldn't have to also curve to match the car shape. This might have made the windows less structurally sound and more expensive to manufacture. As for the second explanation, I wasn't able to find much beyond speaking to other railfans to back this one up, but it does make some sense. In an era where airlines were luring passengers away from trains, thought to be outdated, designers allegedly made an effort to make the interiors of the Amfleets resemble those of an airliner with small windows, thus giving the traveling public the feeling of the jet age that they desired. Lastly, and probably most likely, was that Amtrak was having a very difficult time with vandalism in the inner cities throughout their early years. Metal cages, like these on this E60, were added to engine windshields to protect crews from rocks, other projectiles, and even cinder blocks, which were often hung from bridges with ropes so that they would crash into the cabs of passing trains. So, the Amfleet windows were deliberately made smaller to protect passengers from stones being thrown as they sped by. Which of these explanations makes the most sense to you? Let me know in the comments below. As soon as they hit the rails, the Amfleet cars quickly became the workhorses of Amtrak's fleet. Their design and compatibility with existing locomotives made them highly adaptable to various operating conditions, while their contemporary interiors and amenities provided passengers with a comfortable and enjoyable travel experience. When Amtrak retired the Budd-built Metroliners or converted some of them to cab cars, Amtrak continued the Metroliner Service using modified Amfleet 1 cars pulled by AEM7 locomotives. The Amfleets used for Metroliner Service were refurbished and had fewer seats with more legroom, leg rests, and curtains on the windows. Amtrak also offered Railfone on the Metroliners, an absolutely extraordinary convenience for the time. In 1986, the cost was $5 for 3 minutes and $1 per additional minute. Not a cheap thrill. After the undeniable success of the new fleet, Amtrak returned to Budd in 1980 to place an order for a slightly modified design which would be called the Amfleet 2s. These cars would be used primarily for longer distance trains, with improvements such as larger windows, fewer seats per car to allow for more personal space, and a vestibule at only one end of the car instead of both, thus allowing for more interior room. Along with the coaches, both the Amfleet 1 and 2 orders included food service cars. While today's cafe cars are configured pretty much the same, at one time there were not only Am Cafes, but Am Dinettes, Am Clubs, and Am Lounges as well, all with different layouts and amenities. In total, Amtrak received over 650 Amfleets from Budd. Over the years, they have undergone numerous refurbishments and upgrades to maintain their performance and reliability. From interior renovations to mechanical overhauls, these efforts have extended the service life of the Amfleets, allowing them to remain in active service decades after their initial introduction. Some are now approaching 50 years old, making them far older than anything Amtrak ever received from predecessor railroads. The Amfleet 1s have now been slated for replacement by Siemens Venture cars on some routes, and by the new Siemens Airo train sets in almost all other cases. The Amfleet 2 long-distance cars might have a little bit more of their careers ahead of them, but Amtrak has recently made clear their intentions to replace both these and the Superliners in the not-so-distant future. So get out there, take a ride, take a photo, and appreciate the contribution of these successful American transportation icons. Licensing the historic footage for this episode and others like it is by far the biggest expense. So please consider supporting the channel with a super thanks or by picking something up from the online store linked below. For some more Amtrak history, watch this video next. Thank you for watching Rail Weekly.